Welcome to Taylormade with Nancy. I'm Nancy Taylor. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I've created a series of video tutorials featuring the Rain or Shine Sweet Collection from Stampin' Up. Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute vertical fold bunny card using our stamps and dies. You can find out more about the Rain or Shine Sweet Collection on pages 50 and 51 of the annual catalog. As you may know, the catalog is set to retire at the end of this month, and come May 2nd, you will no longer be able to buy the stamp set and coordinating die set as a bundle, but they will still be sold separately. You will still be able to purchase the raindrop embossing folder, but unfortunately the DSP is already sold out. You can also still order these really cute daisy embellishments. If you registered for my virtual workshop, you should have all the supplies you need to make this card. For today's card, we're going to be featuring some of the beautiful Balmy Blue Raindrop DSP that has all of this beautiful shine and shimmer. And we're going to be featuring our bunny. So I went ahead and I blocked our stamps. And on your screen, you will see the materials that we're going to use from the stamp set. We are going to use both the bunny, and we're also going to use the sentiment that says, "Rainy days are better with you." For most of the cards in these tutorials, I have really been favoring using the die from Stitch So Sweetly. That is the second rectangle. If you have stitched rectangles, you can use that. Or if you want to just cut a rectangle for your sentiment, that's fine too. But for that, I basically recommend a 2" by 4" piece of scrap, whatever is going to be big enough to fit our sentiment. And the beauty of Stampin' Up stamps is when you get your stamps and you look at the case, it shows you the actual size. So it is really helpful when you're trying to figure out which of your dies go best with the sentiment you want to use. And so for this set, I just really loved how this particular scalloped rectangle looked with our sentiment. So we're going to use that. We're also going to use Misty Moonlight ribbon. This came in a 2-pack. It also came with Petal Pink, which is one of my favorite colors that Stampin' Up makes. It came in a set of 2. This is what we're going to be using. If you have a different ribbon you want to use, you can go ahead and use that. But I just really liked how that looked with these colors. Let's go ahead and get started by cutting our cardstock. So I'm just going to go ahead and move all of these pieces over to the side, including our Wink of Stella, which we do not want to forget to use to make our bunny's raincoat extra shiny. So it looks like he just came out of the rain. I'm going to move this over to the side. So for this card, we're going to be doing a vertical fold. So we're going to start with our paper trimmer. Usually we turn the paper in landscape mode and we cut at 5.5 and we score at 4.25. So an easy trick to remember how to make a vertical card is to reverse that. So instead of scoring at 4.25, we're going to start by cutting at 4.25. Oops. Forget sometimes to line up my blades. Okay. And that's going to give us 2 pieces. One of them we can put away for another project if we want to make a second one of these cards. And then we're going to turn and we're going to go to our 5.5, which I shared with you in another video, is where I keep my washi tape. One of the problems I used to have when I first started using my trimmer to do the scoring is that I would mistake where my washi tape was for the 14 line. It's not the same as the 5.5. And that little teeny tiny bit of overage would make my cards not fold perfectly, and it would drive me crazy. So you want to make sure you're using the 5.5 and not the 14 centimeters. So we're going to go ahead and fold our card. We can put this away actually, let's go ahead and cut all of our paper. Sorry about that. So I'm going to start with a whole piece of basic white. And as you remember from our materials list, we're going to need a bunch of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just start by the largest of these pieces is at 5.25. So I'm going to start at 5.25 and just cut my paper. Put that to the side. And then the first piece we need is 4 inches. So we'll cut that at 4 inches. Set this to the side. And this is going to be our inside piece. So I'll go ahead and just sit this right inside the card so I don't forget to attach it. This piece we can go ahead and use to do our critter, and we could also use the rest of it to cut out our sentiment. So I'm not going to cut these, but if you're starting from a materials list and it's easier for you to pre-cut before you watch the video, that is there for you. So let's go ahead and start by stamping our bunny with our tuxedo black ink. I really like to use my Stampin' pad. If you have one, I recommend using it to get a nice crisp image, but you do not have to use it. Just a suggestion. So we're going to go ahead and grab our bunny and grab our memento, and we're going to get it very inked up. And then check to make sure you have good coverage. I think that looks pretty good. And stamp towards the corner, leaving enough room for either fussy cutting at the bottom or using our dies if you're going to use our dies. And there we go. Nice crisp image. Cover that up and use my chamois to clean my stamp so that I don't make a mess. Forget about it. So I like to color my stamps, my stamped images before I die cut them or fussy cut them, because I just think it's much easier to do it that way. So for this card, I wanted our bunny to be wearing blue. And you can choose whatever blue you like. I decided to go with our Balmy Blue blends, which matches the DSP. And I chose to use, instead of using them to blend with each other, which is one of the features of our blends, like they come in a light color and a dark color so that you can blend them. Because I wanted to have a little bit of contrast, even though I'm doing blue on blue, I went ahead and did our puddle in the dark blue and our raincoat in the light blue. There's not a whole lot to color on the bunny, though you can absolutely make the bunny gray if you choose to. I've never done that before. Yesterday I had my first in-person workshop, and I was actually surprised by how many people chose to make their bunny gray. And so the gray marker was there for a different card, and that's what people did. So I actually might try to see what happens if I make our bunny gray. It's worth a try. So for the raincoats, those of you who've been following these tutorials, you know that I kind of like to do an outline, and then I like to fill them in. That's our light Balmy Blue. And then I'm going to go back under, and I like to use the longer edge, but you can use the bulleted edge if you like that. And we're going to go right under his little foot, and we're going to wrap it around. Okay, and I'm going to use my Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to use the dark color on his nose. Just kind of go right around. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, and I'm going to use the light color in his ears. And let's go ahead and be a little wild, and let's just see what happens. Let me try the gray granite. So that's the dark one. I don't think we want to go dark. I think we want to keep him nice and light. I just thought it was very cheerful and bright, the contrast of the white on blue, but let's just see what happens. And I like to show you a couple variations so you can see which one you like better and do the one that you like better. Either way, I think this bunny is pretty cute. And again, I just kind of like to outline. It's just the way I find it just creates a little bit, and I hope it shows up on camera, but it just creates a little bit of dimension. Get his little hands and his little feet. Or you can keep him white and just maybe put a little bit of pink on his cheeks or just leave him the way he is. So now there are two options for what we are going to do with our bunny. So one way to go about this is to just lay the die right on top of the bunny, run it through the machine, and then fussy cut your puddle and then glue it in two pieces like we did in our other cards. But I'm going to show you Only Goes technique, which is that we're going to do it backwards. And whenever I fussy cut, I like to start with a small piece of paper. It's just easier. But we're going to start by fussy cutting out the puddle. Leave some white there. Kind of just get it to where you leave some white under there so that there's room for him to be die cut with the actual die that goes with the set. Sorry, I'll get that rounded just a little bit better. Okay. And you'll kind of fussy cut around the foot area. Again, leaving some white space because this is going to go through the stamp cut and emboss machine. But basically, the goal is to cut it out in a way where we now have our puddle and we can actually loop it through our die so that the correct way so that we can loop it through our die and run it through the stamp cut and emboss machine and be able to cut it out in a way where we do not lose the puddle. Our bunny is now ready to go through the die machine, and I will be right back. And so you will see that we now have our bunny and we can loop him back through the die and he is all in one piece. So you can decide, and I'm sorry, I don't think I did justice to Onigo's technique, but I tried. Big fan. Okay, sorry. Get rid of my scraps. And there, it was just hiding. Okay, so let's close our scissors. We don't need any accidents. So let's go ahead before we forget and put some adhesive on our inside piece. Go ahead and attach it to the center of our card. And like where it is, go ahead and push it down. We don't need our foam pad anymore. And I am going to go ahead and get our paper trimmer back so that we can get our DSP, which is really the centerpiece of this card. But okay. And so since we did this as a vertical card, we want to make sure that it is 5 1/4 long. So whichever way you start, whether you want to start cutting long ways or if you want to start cutting the width, just make sure that the raindrops are going up and down. So 4 inches wide, 5 1/4 long. And there we go. I like to use the top of the paper because it is where you get the most rain. If you want to have it not be as rainy, you can use the bottom of the paper. Let's see what I did in our mock image. We've pretty much been doing this a little bit differently, right? So let me try to mix it up a little. Let's go ahead and try it without so much rain. I don't know. Why not? So we said that was going to be 4 inches by 5.25. Sorry. Okay. And let's move our trimmer. Let's see, this card made 2 ways. Why not? Okay. So we're going to take our card back and we're going to flip over our DSP and locate our adhesive. And we're going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the back of our card, on the back of our DSP. And we're going to turn it around, make sure the raindrops are going up and down. And when we like where it is, press down. Okay. Next, we can go ahead and attach our bunny. Or if you want, sometimes it helps to just lay out your card. So we already have the die right here, so I already know where the sentiment is going to go. And for these cards, when using the Raindrop DSP, where I place the sentiment and where I place the bunny often is dependent on the DSP I'm using. I don't know if you're as type A as I am, but I don't want to run into a situation where I've only got half a raindrop showing. So if I can avoid it, I kind of turn him around or put him in a place where I think it makes the most sense. I really like to try to have the rain going like directly on his head. Maybe I'm putting too much thought into this, but it's your card. Do it how you like. And I'm going to go ahead and get 2 dimensionals. And I'm going to put one on the top of his head and put one on the bottom. I bet you thought I was going to put it in there. I've never done that, and I'm not about to try doing that on a tutorial. Not that it would have mattered. Okay, sorry, get that in the right place. Let me reposition my bunny. Okay, that's where I like him. I think that works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put him down. And there he is in the rain, looking cute. Make sure I still think that works. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, take a piece of scrap white and run it through the die cutting machine, and I will be right back. If you're going to be using just a piece of scrap paper, then if you want to cut that into a rectangle, you can go ahead and do that, or use whatever die you're going to be using to cut out your die for the sentiment. Okay, so we've got our piece of white scrap that we have die cut to stamp our sentiment. And then we're going to go ahead, let me go ahead and get my foam mat back over here. And we're going to take our die cut and we're going to get our stamp and our flirty flamingo. And ink up our stamp. It's a little harder to tell when you've got good coverage, when you're using a red color on red rubber, but we're gonna keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, and know that if it doesn't come out, that it's okay, because we can just stamp the back. So I always like to try to touch the corner and then lift straight up, and got a little smudge, so let's flip it over and use the other side. Fortunately, the stitches come through on both sides. And see, that's because I rocked my stamp. So you can see, I don't know if you can see, but you can see I got some ink along the edges, which is primarily the reason we do not rock our stamps. So I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to press down. I'm not going to rock. I'm going to hold the corner down, and that is much better. Okay, so close up my ink. Go ahead if you have a chamois and clean off your stamp so you don't forget and get ink all over yourself. And then wonder how you got flirty flamingo all over the card you just made. Okay. And next we're going to take our Misty. Oh, did we forget to use our bone folder? I think we did. I'm sorry about that. So if you have a bone folder, that's a really handy little tool that helps you to burnish the edge of your card and get a nice flat fold. See, didn't that just work wonders? It's really worth it. This is one of the items I was a little conflicted about buying, but I've never regretted it since I got it. Okay, so we're going to find our Misty Moonlight. If you purchased one of the virtual workshop kits, you will have enough that will tie around your sentiment. I'm going to just be honest and let you know that I am horrible at tying bows, so please don't judge me. But basically, you need enough ribbon so that you can tie around your bow, tie around your die without covering the words. And so I like to just kind of leave it attached to the ribbon until I know just how much I need. And then once I know that I have enough on there, I go ahead and take my snips and I cut. So when you're tying your ribbon, the most important thing is to make sure that you get a nice flat front. You don't want it to be twisting. You don't want it to be looped over or anything like that. You just want it to be nice and flat. Sorry, I think this is my first time trying to tie a bow on video, so I'm gonna try my best here. Okay, so pick it up. I like to move the ribbon right underneath the stitches. And then a trick that somebody told me is to tie the bow as though you're tying it backwards. So it should feel wrong. Like it should feel like you're tying the bow upside down. So whatever way you would normally loop it the other way so that it just feels wrong. I like to go ahead and just kind of pull it from the end to tighten it up until you get it to the size that you like it. And then you could always go back and trim the ends if you have a little bit of a rough end. Don't want it to be twisted. Okay. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over and use dimensionals. You could use 3. I am going to be stingy and I'm going to use 2. If there was a way to use 1, I probably would just use 1, but I think it's going to look better if we use 2. And then we're going to flip it over. We're going to figure out where we want to put it. I like to center it using the raindrops more so than the bunny, since he's a little loaded to the left. And when you like where it is, push down. And then finally, the finishing touch for this card and basically all the cards that we've made in these tutorials is to use our Wink of Stella glitter brush and go ahead and give our raincoat a little sparkle so that it looks wet, glistening, and go ahead and do the same thing with our little puddle. And not sure if you can see it, but it has a nice sparkly effect. And so the choice is yours. You can have a white bunny, you can have a gray bunny, you can use a different critter if you want, but I hope that no matter which you chose to do, that you enjoyed making this card with me, and I hope that you will be able to send it to somebody who really needs a little sunshine.